welcome to the Park2Park podcast, where we compare theme park offerings from coast to coast. We don't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we'll try. I'm one of your hosts, CJ, and I'm joined again by my sister and co-host, Alli. Alli, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, CJ. I am good. And how is CJ the hostess with the mostest?
I am doing pretty well. Had some Chick-fil-A for dinner. I just saw a gator out in the yard here behind the house, so it's a good day to be a Floridian.
All right. I've seen some deer recently, but we don't have alligators in Texas that I'm aware of, at least not around these parts.
Nice.
So.
Well, before we get into today's episode, I don't remember if it was last episode or the episode before that. We asked for some listener feedback about which one of us was the funnier looking one.
Okay, I'm worried.
Yeah, we did get some feedback. One of my friends messaged me and said that definitively Alli is the funnier looking one.
All right, which friend was it?
I'm just kidding. We didn't get that feedback. I just wanted to pull a prank.
All right. I take back my threatening knuckle cracks.
I don't know if that was a funny prank or not, but it just crossed my mind today. But we have had some good feedback recently. People are really enjoying the show and learning some things, and that's good. That's good.
And I guess people think we're funny or something. I don't know.
I don't think we are, but maybe we are. I don't know. Okay, well, this episode we are going into the dark.
I'm scared, CJ. Hold my hand.
I don't want to hold your hand. We're too old for that. What are we talking about this episode?
This episode, we are talking about Peter Pan, Snow White, and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. That's right, the classic dark rides that were installed at the Disney parks before 1971. That's not the right word, but it's the word I used. Built. Opened.
There we go. Now, 2 of those 3 rides don't even exist at the Magic Kingdom anymore. They were removed, fan favorites removed, made way for new rides, which we'll get into in a little bit. But Peter Pan is still there. Peter Pan's Flight is still there at Walt Disney World at the Magic Kingdom. But let's start. What is a dark ride, first of all?
A dark ride, according to allears.net, is a ride which moves guests through multiple scenes to create a narrative.
Now, I think the definition, I don't know, this is just my opinion. I think the definition might be a little narrower than that because there's some rides that are dark, but aren't necessarily dark rides.
Yeah, Space Mountain is a prime example of that. It's very dark in there, but it's not a dark ride.
Yeah, and I would say it creates a narrative. You're in a rocket and you're traveling through space, right? You're like a space astronaut or like a rocket man or something.
But you're not exactly moving through multiple scenes. You're just moving through space.
I think you're moving through multiple scenes.
Okay, are you talking Magic Kingdom space or are you talking Disneyland space?
I think both. There's the blast off, and then there's like going through space, and there's the re-entry.
Okay, if we could argue that all Disney rides are dark rides, though.
Okay, but the dark ride, that's like a separate category. Dark ride.
Space Mountain is not a dark ride. It is a high-speed, turbulent roller coaster type ride in the dark.
High-speed, thrilling, turbulent roller coaster type ride in the dark with sharp turns, sudden drops, and stops. If you're watching us on YouTube, you saw us both like jerk our heads forward. That's because on the little ride safety video at the Space Mountain queue at Disneyland, they all jerk their heads forward in the rocket in that part of the safety spiel. But I think what I'm getting at is the Fantasyland dark rides and going outside of Fantasyland, like Monsters Inc. and California Adventure and like the Figment ride and Epcot. They're like flat dark rides,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not thrilling. They're just kind of flat and slow and approachable for everybody in your family.
Follow-up, is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train a dark ride?
No, I would say no. It goes outside.
So for you, it has to be fully indoors.
Oh, you got me. Because Alice in Wonderland goes outside. Yeah. But I would still classify that as a dark ride.
And Alice in Wonderland isn't exactly flat either. You do go up and downhill.
That's true. But it's a gradual incline. Like the purpose is not to thrill you with a sudden drop, you know?
But it still goes outside.
It does.
And that
Seven
light can
Dwarfs,
be very bright and jarring.
back to your question about Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, the purpose of it has speed. It has a thrilling element to it.
Okay, so a dark ride moves guests through multiple scenes to create a narrative slowly.
Slowly, in a non-thrilling manner.
And mostly indoors.
Mostly indoors.
In the dark.
In the dark.
Without sharp turns, sudden drops, or stops.
Clunk as we clunk our heads forward in our imaginary rockets. Yes. So now that we have a pretty decent definition about dark rides, what's your favorite thing about dark rides in general?
So I will say that I answered this question on the outline before I watched the ride through on YouTube. So I'm going to have to amend it slightly.
Okay.
For the most part, they're for the whole family. Anybody can ride a dark ride at Disneyland and have a good time for the most part.
Okay. What's your exception there?
Snow White's Scary Adventures was terrifying.
Okay, we'll save that discussion when we get to Snow White.
That's my qualifier.
Okay. I mean, it just says scary in the title. And for me, dark ride, the concept of a dark ride is like a very carnival concept. You know, they've been around for a long time outside of Disney, but I think Disney elevates that a little bit and makes it more Disney-ish, and they just add extra things to it that make it more than just a little ride in the dark. It's more interesting. And I think that they have built upon that throughout the years. They've updated their dark rides and made them more relevant and more interesting and added more technology to make it timeless for new generations. So, that being said, we're going to start with Peter Pan's Flight, which exists in both Disneyland and Magic Kingdom. So, Alli, why don't you run through your favorite things specifically about Peter Pan at Disneyland and Magic Kingdom?
So my favorite thing is kind of the same for both rides, and it's the feeling you get when the car is no longer in the loading zone. The the rails are no longer guiding it at the bottom, and you're free and you're flying. Like that's cool.
That is a cool feeling. I do enjoy that feeling too.
Yeah. What about you?
At Disneyland, I like the room with the stars. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's the room with the stars.
Yeah.
And at Magic Kingdom, it's the queue. The queue has been updated relatively recently, and it's really interactive and very detailed, and it's a very interesting queue to walk through.
Yeah. They make it like interactive, didn't they? I mean, I've only Lightning Lane fast passed it at
Yeah.
Magic Kingdom.
If you ever get a chance to go, maybe during fireworks is a good time to go, when the line is not super, super long or first thing in the morning. You can like wave your arms around and your shadow interacts with things. There's just stuff to do, and they tell more of the Peter Pan story, specifically about the darling children. Okay.
At Disneyland, Peter Pan's Flight opened on July 17th, 1955.
And at Magic Kingdom, I was finding conflicting things about when it opened, either October 1st or 3rd, 1971.
I wonder why there's a discrepancy, because normally Disney history is like thoroughly documented.
Yeah, I was a little confused about that. Okay. Fun facts, history, and trivia.
So both of these are based on the 1953 animated movie, which was in turn based on the book and play by J.M. Barrie. Haven't read it. Slightly more willing to read it than I was to read Swiss Family Robinson. Originally at Disneyland, Peter Pan, the Darling Children, the Lost Boys, the Mermaids, and the Indians, except for Tiger Lily, did not appear in the ride. They were not there until the 80s. The idea being you, the rider, are Peter Pan, but people didn't quite get it, so they added the characters in when they did the huge Fantasyland refurbishment in the 80s.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Peter Pan wasn't in it initially because I know that's how they did a lot of their dark rides initially, but I'm surprised that all those other people weren't in it too.
Yeah, they just feel like such an integral part of the ride
Like
narrative.
none of the darling children, hello?
Yeah. Like if you're supposed to be Peter Pan, aren't you taking the darling children with you? So therefore you would see them?
Yeah, I wonder if it was a budget thing because they were so strapped for cash in the beginning. I wonder if they just were like, let's just build the ride and we'll add later, you know?
Yeah, but if none of them got added until the 80s, that's like almost 30 years where
Right? They could have
they were
added
strapped for cash? I don't
it.
sus.
Yeah. Yeah. So at Magic Kingdom, here's some trivia here. This is from Jim Korkis, who's a historian and author in the Disney community. He's very well known. So this was actually going to be a Mary Poppins ride in the space where Peter Pan is today. Roy O. Disney himself actually vetoed this idea because so many East Coasters had not visited Disneyland, and he thought that they would want to ride things that they had seen on TV that already existed in Disneyland, such as Peter Pan, which has always been a pretty popular ride at Disneyland. So some of the ideas for a Mary Poppins ride included vehicles that were like overturned umbrellas or carousel horses. And Peter Pan operates on an omnimover system at Magic Kingdom, so the walkway moves while you board, and it reuses some audio and sound effects from the 1955 Disneyland version. So if you want to get some 1955 Disneyland history, take a hop on the Magic Kingdom Peter Pan's flight.
In Disneyland, this ride is located in Fantasyland next to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and behind the castle.
And in Magic Kingdom, it's also in Fantasyland, in Old Fantasyland. I feel weird calling it Old Fantasyland, but there's like the newer area, and then there's Storybook Circus, and then there's like Classic Fantasyland. So it is in Classic Fantasyland. Across from It's a Small World, kind of down that alleyway heading towards Liberty Square.
The queue at Disneyland is usually one of the longest lines in the park. There's switchbacks and it's mostly outside, and the exterior of it looks pretty much like the rest of Fantasyland does. It looks like an English cottage.
Yeah, I don't mind that the queue is partially outside because you get to that inside portion and it's so cramped in there. You're like right on top of your neighbors, and airflow is not that great once you get to the covered part.
And there's all that like fake wood barriers on
Yeah.
everything. It's sticky.
Yeah, sticky is a good way to describe it. At Magic Kingdom, the exterior of the queue is that old Renaissance fair style that's pretty pervasive throughout classic Fantasyland. And it says Peter Pan's flight written on a cloud with Peter and the darling children flying in front of Big Ben. The queue is mostly indoors and covered unless it's crowded and extends outside. Sometimes like the lightning lane section, if people don't understand how to scan, they can get tied up outside. It was updated in 2014 to include those interactive elements, which feature the Darling family residence, and it's pretty detailed inside. Disneyland's, like you said, is just a bunch of switchbacks, and you just like stare at your neighbors in line, basically.
Yeah.
But at Magic Kingdom, you see paintings of scenes from the movie, like the mermaids and Captain Hook. Then you enter the Darling residence itself, where you see the parents getting ready. You see Nana, portraits of the family, and then you enter the nursery where it's nighttime. You see a bureau of toys. You walk past the children's beds. Tinkerbell opens a treasure chest. They make her little pixie dust makes the sailboat shake, and some other things happen near the beds. Your shadows can interact with butterflies and bells on the wall. You see Peter Pan's shadow go by. There's a lot of really fun things, and then eventually you do a couple small switchbacks, and then you board.
Yeah, it's very engaging and
Yeah.
good for families with small children who need something to distract them while they are waiting in a long line to get on.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very long, very long wait.
In both parks, you can hear Peter Pan soundtrack when you're in the area/queue.
hmm And as far as the ride vehicle goes, they're both pretty much the same, just a pirate ship that's suspended from a rail, and it's a single lap bar across the lap.
And let's take a little ride. So I pretty much copied the ride through description, route, etc. from the Disneyland website. From the Darling Family Nursery, you sail past Big Ben and Tower Bridge as London glitters below. You then make your descent into the magical world of Neverland, home to volcanic peaks, sparkling waterfalls, lost boys, and mermaids. Swoop into Pirate's Cove and cheer as Peter braves a swashbuckling duel with Captain Hook, while Wendy is forced to walk the plank. Can Peter Pan return his young companion safely to London, or will someone meet an untimely end in the jaws of a ticking crocodile?
So at Magic Kingdom, you start in the nursery, you fly over London, around Big Ben towards the moon, then into the Lost Boys area with the mermaids and the Native American scenes, where you hear "Fire, Mr. Smee" over and over and over again. Wendy is tied up on the boat. Peter and Hook are fighting. The Darling children are on the ship with Peter in charge. Smee is rowing the boat, and Hook is about to get eaten. Then the ride is over as you see the ship sailing off into the distance in the form of a painting. And TikTok Croc looks at you crazily on the left side as you disembark on the right.
I think it's interesting that the Disneyland website does not mention the Native Americans and the Native American village that you go by.
Well, I didn't go off the Disney website. I watched a ride through to refresh my memory and typed what I was seeing as I watched. So I'm not sure if the Disney website mentions that.
There are no height requirements for either of these attractions in either park.
And during the fireworks, the Magic Kingdom version is open, but the Disneyland version is closed. And during the fireworks at Disneyland, if you want to get a head jump or a head start on the line, they start forming a queue for Peter Pan during the fireworks show. So if you want to, have a shorter wait, you can watch the fireworks from near the carousel and also wait in line for Peter Pan while you're watching the fireworks.
Pro
and
tip.
then once the fire marshal clears the Fantasyland buildings and says it's okay to reopen, it takes 15, 20 minutes or so, then they'll let the rides open and you'll be on in no time.
Both of these attractions are open when it's raining.
Disneyland does not offer Lightning Lane, but Magic Kingdom does.
In your opinion, if there was a space to put it, should Disneyland have a Lightning Lane for this?
I don't think so.
Is this because of your low opinion of Lightning Lane, or is it because you don't think it would work very well for this ride?
I don't think it would work very well for this ride. I just, I think about where guests with disabilities board through the exit. That already slows down the line a little bit because the queue can't accommodate them, and that's no fault of anybody's. It is what it is. This ride was built in the 50s. What are they going to do? So I think having a Lightning Lane line would slow it down even further for standby and push standby waits even longer than they already are. I don't know. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Well, with that, I think it's time for the final showdown of Peter Pan. Pan versus Pan.
Is that like a baking competition?
Do you use the 8x8 or do you use the 9x13?
I always thought it was 9x12. Well, that goes to show how much I cook. Not a lot.
I baked a cake last week. It's a 9x13.
Okay. Well, does one side stand out above the crowd? Alli, tell me.
So the rides are essentially the same. There's some differences between them, but they are effectively the same ride. So I actually am going to give this to Magic Kingdom based on the queue experience being a lot better than at Disneyland.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to split from you and give it to Disneyland because I actually think the Disneyland ride experience is better. It has that star scene that just is not there in Magic Kingdom. That is so gorgeous. And even though the queue at Magic Kingdom is better, I think the experience of not having to stop for people in the Lightning Lane is better at Disneyland. The line pretty much continuously moves, which is really nice. Whereas at Magic Kingdom, you're stopped there. I mean, they wouldn't have to build all this entertainment in the queue if they didn't have Lightning Lane and the line just continuously moved.
Would they though? Because the line at Disneyland is always long.
Yeah, but it like pretty much moves constantly, so you don't have time to stand there and play games because they don't have to stop to let 45 Lightning Lane people in.
CJ has very strong feelings about Lightning Lane.
I do. I think it affects the guest experience, especially if you're a standby guest.
This is tangential, but have you watched the video about Fast Pass? I think it's Defunctland who put it out.
Yes, I did.
It was very interesting.
It was very interesting, and our listeners should go watch it.
I'm just going to confirm that it is Defunctland. It might not be. Yeah, it is Defunctland. It's an hour and 45 minutes, but it is absolutely worth your time. Go watch that video.
Yeah,
It's
it is
fascinating.
fascinating. Very fascinating. Shall we move on to our next Fantasyland dark ride?
Yes, let's.
And it is Snow White, or Snow White's Scary Adventures, or Snow White and Her Adventures. I don't know. Allie, tell me all the names. Well, actually, we're going to do this a little differently. Usually I do Magic Kingdom and Allie does Disneyland, but since this was recently refurbished at Disneyland, like completely redone, Allie has not been on the new Disneyland version. I have. And honestly, it's probably been a long time since both of us have been on the Snow White at Magic Kingdom. Since our our year 2000 trip was probably the last time we both did that one.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the closing date for it at Magic Kingdom, and I did not go anytime between 2000 and 2012. So yeah, I would have been on it in 2000, if at all.
So it's been 22 years since both of us have been on it at Magic Kingdom. So we both had to watch the YouTube video. So our knowledge on Magic Kingdom is about the same for this. So Allie's going to do Magic Kingdom. I'm going to do Disneyland.
And then I did not watch a ride through of Snow White's Enchanted Wish because I did not want to be spoiled for it when I do eventually go on it. So anything that I say about Disneyland will probably, when it comes down to the final showdown, we'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there when we get there.
Okay, so Disneyland, well, it went through several name changes. First of all, when it first opened, it was Snow White and Her Adventures. Then it was Snow White's Scary Adventures, and now it's called Snow White's Enchanted Wish. What about Magic Kingdom?
It was first Snow White's Adventures, then Snow White's Scary Adventures, and now it's nothing.
No, it's nothing. Allie, what's your favorite thing about Snow White at Disneyland?
For Snow White's Scary Adventures, the scream when the evil queen / witch dies at the end is iconic.
Ah! Yeah, it is iconic. You're right. And what about Magic Kingdom?
So watching the ride through, I liked that it told a more complete story instead of just ending with the death and the scream. You got a more complete story, and you even got the huntsman in there too.
Yeah, I thought that was cool as well. So my favorite thing about Snow White at Disneyland is the queue. I like that you have, okay, when I backtrack here, when we went on it at Disneyland, we used disability access, so we didn't go through the queue. So I don't know how much the queue has changed since the refurbishment, but when it was Snow White Scary Adventures, at least, they had like that little dungeon room right there on the entry to the queue. And I always thought that was kind of a cool little touch. And there's some detail there, you know, they have those columns where they have like squirrels carved into it and stuff. Like, I just think they kind of went the extra mile to make it Snow White-ish. And I think that's a nice touch.
Is the evil queen still in the window?
Yes.
Can you still do the apple thing?
No.
The apple's gone?
It's gone. And actually, my friend Castle's Characters and Crayons confirmed that today for me. My friend Jenny. I asked her, I was like, can you double check on that? And she confirmed that it is gone, and I'm really upset about that.
Man.
Yeah, rip. And then my favorite thing about Snow White at Magic Kingdom is just how different it is from Disneyland's version. All right, opening dates. Disneyland, we got an opening day attraction, July 17th, 1955.
And at Magic Kingdom, this attraction was open from October 1st, 1971 to May 31st, 2012.
And then as far as fun facts, history, and trivia, I mean, it's similar to Peter Pan, where Snow White wasn't originally in the ride. You, the rider, were supposed to be Snow White, experiencing her adventures. She was added during that 1983 Fantasyland refurbishment. Guests tried and often succeeded in stealing the apple that the Wicked Witch offers. I'm sure it's probably like shown up on eBay randomly somewhere.
Probably.
Yep. In the 1983 refurbishment, it was replaced with an image of an apple projected via a parabolic mirror. It looks a little weird if you've seen it in person. I think you know what we're talking about, but it did solve the theft problem.
The Magic Kingdom edition originally seated 4 guests per car and expanded to have 6 guests per car in 1994 when the attraction was remodeled. The original version was a lot scarier, which I find hard to believe watching the ride through that I did, and did not feature Snow White. Basically, the evil queen who turns herself into that wicked witch was trying to kill you throughout the entire ride. And at the end, the witch is pushing a giant gemstone above your ride vehicle, and there were starbursts, which kind of implies that you died and you then went to the most magical place on earth. You died and went to Disney World. So thanks, Yesterland, for that little tidbit of information. And also, some of the old audio animatronics from the ride are now used in the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train ride.
Yeah, I think that's cool. They've recycled those animatronics.
Yeah.
So in Disneyland, this is located in Fantasyland behind the castle on the left side. It's the first ride you see across from the carousel.
And at Magic Kingdom, also in Fantasyland behind the castle, but on the right side near the carousel, where the Princess Fairy Tale Hall is located today. They took out Snow White and replaced it with Meet the Princesses.
They did.
Wow, they couldn't have found a better place to put the princesses. Rude.
I know, right? Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
They have all that space, you know?
Yeah, a lot more space than Disneyland does.
Yep. So the queue and the exterior of these attractions. So at Disneyland, the evil queen looks out from above. She has this window. It's like a very simple animatronic, and she occasionally draws back the curtains and looks down on the guests, which is so cool. I love that little feature. And there used to be a spell book with a poison apple that you can touch, and you could hear the queen's cackling, and I'm so upset they took that out. Anyways, the exterior of the queue has that like castle courtyard look that we see throughout Fantasyland, and it has some Snow White-ish touches that I talked about earlier. And there's that like dungeon scene in the queue, which to be honest, I don't know if it's still a dungeon in there, but I don't know what else they would put in there. I mean, it's very dungeon looking.
Yeah. My favorite thing about that little dungeon pillar was I know it's physically impossible, but I would always try to like look around the corner and like see what was down there.
I know. I feel like there's a door down there.
Yeah, I think so.
What would they put a door to? I wonder.
It's the secret door that leads you to Disney World.
That would be awesome.
Teleportation door. Let's go.
All right. What about Magic Kingdom? What does the queue look like in the exterior?
It had a Renaissance style look with a tent, banners, and Renaissance flags. There was a portrait of Snow White taking the apple from the witch hanging above the attraction entry.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, it was basically just switchbacks. Yeah, it was kind of before the era of like interactive cues that we see so much today at Walt Disney World. So music in the area and the queue, pretty much at Disneyland, you hear that like Fantasyland music. Most of the queues in Fantasyland are like open air, even if they're covered and inside. So you just kind of get the music from like the carousel coming in. As you get closer to the attraction, you might be able to hear a little bit of attraction music.
Yeah, kind of the same thing for Magic Kingdom. Snow White, Fantasyland, general music as heard from the attraction and the surrounding area.
And then for the ride vehicles, they both had wooden mine carts. And they have like the dwarf names carved into the front. Disneyland has 2 rows of seats with lap bars, but Magic Kingdom has 3 rows of seats with lap bars.
Now, CJ, take me through Snow White's Enchanted Wish.
Yes, without too many spoilers here. So, of course, it has that wonderful mural in the background. You enter the cottage where you see the dwarfs dancing and cleaning with Snow White. Then you see the evil queen plotting outside. Then you see the dwarfs heading off to the mine, singing hi ho, and then they're entering the mine where you see all those beautiful gems, where you hear the dig, dig, dig background music. Then you see the queen's transformation into the witch. Then you enter the dungeon and see some dungeony things. She makes the poison apple. We see Snow White eat the apple. The dwarfs are trying to kill the witch, and presumably they're successful. Snow White gets her kiss from the prince, and they lived happily ever after, and the ride is over.
Gotta love a good Disney ride with some good wholesome murder in it.
Yes.
Okay,
At Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, at Magic Kingdom, you start in the courtyard where you see Snow White's wishing well, a mural, a backdrop of Snow White and the dwarves, and the witch lurking in the background. The prince is there as well. Snow White is hanging out with some birds, and you get the I'm Wishing song playing.
Isn't that like your favorite Disney song?
No. No,
I know. I know. I'm making fun of you.
She warbles a bit too much for my taste.
I know.
We love Adriana Castellotti, but man, the warble, a bit too much. Anyways, you enter into the show building where you see the magic mirror on the wall, and the evil queen transforms into the witch. Into the dungeon you go where there are skeletons and other dungeony things, and the witch makes her poison apple. The huntsman tells Snow White to run away, and Snow White, like a good girl, listens and runs away through the dark forest where the witch is chasing her, and things are frankly terrifying. Eventually, things lighten up, and we get to the cottage where the dwarves are playing their song and everyone is cleaning, but then Snow White, like a fool, eats the apple from the witch. The dwarves are in their mine, and they figure out something's wrong, so they come back and they get the witch. Snow White is kissed by Prince Charming, wakes up, the ride ends, everybody's happy, and Dopey waves goodbye from above a bridge.
Wow. There's no height requirements for either one of these. And during the fireworks, Disneyland's version is closed. It's very close to the castle, so rip, no Snow White. Magic Kingdom's version is actually open during the fireworks, and this is based on the Inside the Magic YouTube video we watched, where they were disembarking, and it was like, boom, 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 flash, flash, flash. And we were like, oh, snap, it's open during the fireworks. Because usually when we watch ride-throughs of rides that are no longer open, it's really hard to tell, was this ride open during the fireworks?
Yeah.
I don't know.
All the ride-throughs we watch are typically during the day.
Yeah. So this was like, oh my gosh, they answered this question for us. So that was cool.
Yeah, both attractions are open during the rain. Disneyland does not have a lightning lane, and we aren't sure about Magic Kingdom. We don't think so, but this is one of those things that is not easy to find out.
Yeah, watching the videos and looking at pictures, like you could see the wait. It was like wait time, 20 minutes from this point, but I couldn't see any signs that were like fast pass entry here or anything like that. So I don't think it had fast pass. All right, with that, it's time for the Snow White showdown. I don't think Snow White would have like a Western shootout. I don't know why I did
that. She would have an apple throwing contest, apple popping.
Maybe like the bow and arrow with the apple on your head.
Yeah, you could do that. She might have to enlist Merida for help, but
okay, it's the Snow White apple bow and arrow showdown.
It's called archery, CJ. You were a scout too. You should know this.
I should, but I don't. Okay, do we see eye to eye on Snow White? Does one side stand out above the crowd? Alli, what are you thinking about good old Snow White here?
Alli went first on the last one.
Oh, so it's my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go with Magic Kingdom on this one because I do think it tells a more cohesive story, and it includes, I mean, before Disneyland's version was updated in the last year, Magic Kingdom included the prince like 20 years ago. So that's cool, and it's just a longer ride. I love that they have like the wishing well out front. or not out front, but in the first part of the ride, and Dopey's like waving at you above the bridge. Like there's just a lot more scenes and a lot more to see and a better done attraction, even if it's scarier than the Disneyland version we see today.
And I'm splitting from you on this one. So, yes, Magic Kingdom does have a more complete and cohesive story. However, one, it's terrifying. Two, Disneyland is still open. Magic Kingdom could have found somewhere else to house the princesses.
Okay, imagine Magic Kingdoms was still open though.
No, I think I would still give it to Disneyland because Disneyland, the whole family can go on it and your children won't be crying when they get off of it because that was scary.
Okay. I still think Disneyland's a little scary. I think they're both scary.
Yeah, they are both scary, but Magic Kingdom is way scarier. Shall we hippity hoppity along
to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride?
I guess there's less hippity hoppitying and more get in your car and drive.
Drive like a maniac.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which is now closed at Magic Kingdom. Alli, what's your favorite thing about Mr. Toad at Disneyland?
So I really like that the queue and the boarding area, like it feels like you're in a courtyard of a manor house and then you're like inside the house. I feel like it's one of the best, if not the best queue in Fantasyland, just because it's really, really well themed. And I have always loved the train effect. It took me a long time growing up to fully understand that, oh, I'm being run over by a train right now. But I always thought the effect was really cool.
I never like stopped to think about the queue and the boarding area, but you're right, that is a really unique queue and boarding area.
Yeah, I do think it is the best queue in all of Fantasyland.
I'm running through the queues in my head right now. I would put it up there. Casey Jr. queue might be a little better, but I would put Mr. Toad up there too.
It's been too long since I've been on Casey Jr.
The only reason why I say Casey Jr. queue might be better is because it's kind of elevated, so you get like a view of Fantasyland.
Okay, but it's not like themed.
It's not themed. No.
No. Well, Mr. Toad's has the better theming.
Correct.
Anyways, Magic Kingdom. I like that it's you have two different ride experiences, not just two different tracks, but it's basically two different rides, or it was basically two different rides. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So for me at Magic Kingdom, I'm going to say the same thing, two different tracks. I think that's very unique.
Yeah.
Besides Autopia, I don't know, in Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom, are there any rides that have two different tracks?
You are asking the wrong girl.
Space Mountain and Tomorrowland Speedway. I feel like that's it though. You know?
I think so, based on, granted, I was there less than 6 months ago. I think that's right. Yeah. I didn't go on everything, but.
Yeah. And then this kind of goes for both of them. I like the ride vehicle. I think the ride vehicle is very unique. You know, it's not just a cart that's like carved uniquely. It's a car, like a motor car with a steering wheel.
It's a little roadster. Yeah. Vroom.
Yeah. So let's talk opening dates. Alli, when did this open at Disneyland?
July 17th, 1955, another opening day attraction.
Yep, and we've got an opening day attraction here too, October 1st, 1971, and it closed September 7th, 1998.
At Disneyland, the original 1955 version was very simple, with plywood flats, a lack of 3D sculptures, unlike other dark rides. It is layered with Alice in Wonderland. They kind of share a show building where like Alice in Wonderland is on the second story and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is on the first story. It's very, very cool. You don't know until you're basically looking at an aerial view going, oh. The ride was redesigned in 1983 during the Fantasyland massive remodel refurbishment. There is a photo op right outside where you can sit in a ride vehicle. I have several pictures of me in this ride vehicle. And many of the voices of the characters inside the ride were done by Corey Burton.
Mm-hmm. He's done so much work for Disney. And I think about the photo op, I think they took one of the ride vehicles and like, probably not spray paint, but they painted it black and they added like extra legs to it and other things and made it into like a spider car, and they bring it out at Halloween and put it in Cars Land as a photo op.
It's horrifying, but
And
I also love it.
yeah, it's very like Cars Land Halloween themed. They put it in front of Flo's, I think. I'm pretty sure I have a picture in it. Anyways, so at Magic Kingdom, before this ride was built, instead of Mr. Toad, they proposed a Sword in the Stone ride, which would have been awesome. And based on what I was reading, it sounds like it would have featured the wizard's duel between Merlin and Madame Mim, but Roy himself rejected it. Womp, womp, womp. So when this ride was like in talks of being closed, like word got out in 1997, basically that Disney was considering replacing Mr. Toad with a Winnie the Pooh ride. Fans were very, very angry, and there was a Save the Toad website that was created. I mean, this was 1997, 98, so it was a very rudimentary website, but t-shirts, posters, and peaceful toad-ins were conducted at Walt Disney World, and this information came from allears.net. But unfortunately, Mr. Toad did close eventually on September 7th, 1998. So the replacement ride, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, has a nod to Mr. Toad himself. So if you look in the ride, there's a portrait of Toad handing a deed over to Owl. And over at the Haunted Mansion in the Pet Cemetery, there's a little statue of Mr. Toad.
Oh.
I know, it's kind of sad. Like, did he die?
Yes. Did you not go on the ride?
Oh
Get
my
run over
gosh,
by a
right.
train.
He did die. So he gave his house away and then he died. Oh dear.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Yikes.
At Disneyland, this ride is in Fantasyland. It's to the right of the castle, past Peter Pan, across from the carousel.
And in Magic Kingdom, it's where Winnie the Pooh is nowadays. It's across from where Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is. It's kind of on the border of like where old Fantasyland meets new Fantasyland, essentially.
And I talked a little bit about the queue at Disneyland. It is half indoors, half outdoors. If you're lucky and it's short, you will just pop right indoors. But the outdoor area is very cool. It kind of continues the castle courtyard, British manor estate look, brick and stone, lots of chimneys. I'm sorry, CJ wrote this part of the outline and I'm cracking up at what she just wrote. The outside portion has some portraits of characters from the Mr. Toad cinematic universe. CJ, you know it's originally based on a book, right?
Yeah, but the ride is based on the cinematic universe.
Is it really a cinematic universe if it's only one movie?
Yes.
I disagree.
The universe is contained within that one movie. Is it not? Isn't it The Wind in the Willows and Ichabod? Aren't those two separate things?
Yes, but they are not set in the same universe.
Well, now you have me all sorts of confused because isn't the ride based on those two things? So would this be Mr. Toad's Wild Ride cinematic universe?
Ichabod Crane and Mr. Toad are very different. They were released at the same time, but they are different. They're two.
It was based on Disney's adaptation of The Wind in the Willows, one of two segments comprising the animated package film The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad is a 1949.
They are two distinct stories.
Yeah, so segments.
They don't take place. I'm sorry, are you going to tell me that The Wind in the Willows and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow take place in the same universe? Because that's the Ichabod part, is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Well, they must. Otherwise, why would they have...
Budget! That's why!
Okay,
it was the late 40s.
But by tying them together, then, they are bound in the same cinematic universe.
They are not.
I contend that they are. A tiny toad and a large human can exist in the same universe.
Not when the toad can drive a motor vehicle.
Maybe it's a tiny motor vehicle.
That explains why you get run over by the train so easily.
Exactly. We solved it. There we go.
No. I'm sorry. I'm just imagining, you know how at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, there's the Headless Horseman?
Oh, he's giant.
What if Mr. Toad is the Headless Horseman?
I don't know about that.
I firmly disagree. They do not take place in the same universe. The Wind in the Willows was written by Kenneth Grahame, and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow was written by Washington Irving. British, American, they don't take place even in the same country. Like,
but this is the cinematic universe.
They're not connected.
I think they are. You think they aren't. Moving on to
finish. The rest of the queue. No, the queue is really cool. So there's like a garden area with like hedges and that.
Oh, and that overhead flowery thing.
A trellis?
Yes, the trellis.
And then you go inside. There's a statue of Mr. Toad, and you're inside Toad Hall, and it's very cool. It's very immersive, and like I said before, it's probably, in my opinion, the best themed queue in Fantasyland. And you feel like you're there.
Yeah, I like looking at the books on the bookshelf by the ride operator when you board, because they're like names of classic novels, but they have something toady in the names.
I wonder if The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is one of those.
I don't know, but I bet you it is, because it's from the same cinematic universe.
I disagree. I don't think it would be, because I think if the book is there, I think that implies that it's a completely different universe.
Anyways, at Magic Kingdom, it's a very different look, or it was a very different look. It had that Renaissance fair style look with flags and banners and shields, and a Mr. Toad statue in the middle between the words wild and ride.
So it was wild Mr. Toad statue ride?
No, it said like Mr. Toad's wild statue ride. Okay, tell me about the music you hear.
At Disneyland outside, you get that general Fantasyland ambiance music that you get everywhere outside in Fantasyland. And inside, you get to hear the song over and over again. We're merrily, 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 merrily on our way to nowhere in particular.
Yeah, you hear that same song at the Magic Kingdom version. And as far as the ride vehicles go, Disneyland has that old style motor car with one row of seats and a steering wheel. Magic Kingdom is also the motor car, but it has 2 rows of seats, and the front row has 2 steering wheels.
So it's like student driver situation.
Well, in the video I saw, it had 2 steering wheels, and I'm going to have to check, because right now in, oh my gosh, what's the name of that store in Disney Springs? I totally forgot. Oh, it's not the vault.
That one that has the like teacup in it?
No, it's further down. Well, I go there a lot. It has the vault collection right now. It's by Ghirardelli. They have a Mr. Toad ride vehicle that you can sit in and take your picture in.
Yeah. Oh, that one that's got like the Disney dress shop in it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it's called. I've been there like
Marketplace
twice.
Or something? I don't remember. I go in there a lot. I like that store, but I just can't remember the name. Okay, tell us the storyline of the Disneyland version.
At Disneyland, you start in Toad Hall in the library, and you go through the back (?) of the fireplace. It looks like from the front, it looks like you're going through the back, but when you're on the ride, it looks like you're going through the front. It's all very confusing, but you do go through the fireplace, down a hallway, through the conservatory, I'm assuming, and then out a glass wall and into the countryside, where a police officer or 2 try to stop you unsuccessfully. Past the keep out sign and a farmer and his animals onto and almost straight off the docks and into the river. But make a turn before you go off the dock. Through some barrels of explosives, then through a brick wall where things explode. You go through a tavern into town and into the courthouse where you're found guilty. Then you get run over by... Yes, that is all. Then you get run over by a train, die, and end up in hell. And then welcome back to the happiest place on earth.
So for Magic Kingdom, I found a track layout that had the different rooms labeled. So track A is the left side. You start in Toad Hall, then the trophy room, the kitchen, gypsy camp. Then you go down the one-way street around Town Square to the pub, the keg room, blackout. I'm not sure what blackout is. Rain Room, Train Tunnel, and then Hell. Track B is the right side.
I'm sorry. You probably black out because you spent too much time in the keg room.
Well, listen to where you black out on the right side. You go to track B, right side. Toad Hall, Library, Blackout.
Too much knowledge.
Yeah. Barnyard, Barn, One-Way Street, Town Square, Jail, Prison, Shireland, Train Tunnel, Hell. So where these two tracks like met each other is on the one-way street. It looked like you're going to crash into each other.
And then you end up in the Shire after you break out of prison, apparently?
I guess so.
I'm going on an adventure, Mr. Frodo.
Right?
No height requirements for either of these attractions. Disneyland closed during fireworks, but Magic Kingdom stayed open, as far as we know.
Well, yeah, Winnie the Pooh's open during the fireworks, so it makes sense that Toad is open too. They're both open during the rain, and Disneyland does not have Lightning Lane. I'm assuming Magic Kingdom did not offer Fast Pass. Again, hard to tell.
But it also closed in 98, which was before Fast Pass really
It was like around
off.
the time that it was starting. So
yeah, Fast Pass was a little baby then.
Yeah, today Winnie the Pooh does have Lightning Lane, for the record. Okay, and then I forgot one of the fun facts here. So one of the reasons, or one of the supposed reasons why they shut down Toad and built Winnie the Pooh is because, with two tracks, that takes up quite a bit of real estate in the park. So it's thought that they were looking at this and saying, well, we could have just one track, a one-track attraction, and use the other track for retail space. So nowadays you've got the Winnie the Pooh attraction and you exit through the gift shop where the other track was.
Money.
Money, money, money. All right. So that being said, it is time for the final showdown. Which Toad in the Toad cinematic universe rises above the other Toad? Does one Toad stand out above the other one? Allie, it's your turn to go first.
These Toads are having a hopping contest to see which one hops a little higher than the others. Okay, it's tough because, I want to give it to Disneyland because Disneyland is still open.
Yeah.
But watching the ride through, the Magic Kingdom Toad was clearly the superior riding experience. So if we're going off of that criteria that you gave me at Snow White discussion, which is pretend that Magic Kingdom Toad never closed, then it goes to Magic Kingdom Toad.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm heading too. I think it's very unique that there's two separate attractions, essentially. You can get two different riding experiences. And I think it's really cool the cars almost hit each other.
Or they appear to almost hit each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that's a really interesting way. And the ride itself appears longer, at least. I mean, just based on the number of scenes and everything.
I watched them both at like 1.5 speed, so I really wouldn't know.
I mean, to me, the ride appears longer, so they have a longer time to tell the story, And if a dark ride is about conveying a story, then Magic Kingdom pulled it off better, in my opinion. Although I do agree with you that the queue at Disneyland is pretty darn cool.
But I will say, if given what Magic Kingdom did with all of their queues, it would be the Magic Kingdom queue for Toad would be better than the Disneyland queue for Toad if it was open now in 2022.
You mean like you think they would have updated it, do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think so too. Because I don't know, a lot of their queues prior to 2010, 2011, 2012, they were just switchbacks in Fantasyland. And the newer rides, even Peter Pan, it's no longer switchbacks. They've got something. Winnie the Pooh has something. Peter Pan has something. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train has something. The only one that doesn't is Small World. That's just switchbacks. But at least you got like a clock to look at and you can watch the boats go by and stuff.
And you're inside.
Yeah, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Well, looking at this, so on number 1, which was Peter Pan.
We split.
On Snow White, we split. And on this one, we agreed. Isn't
Yep.
that interesting? So this is like a true 50-50 episode.
Yep.
Which is surprising. We don't usually have 50-50 episodes.
Yeah, normally you and I kind of agree on things, I think.
Yeah. Interesting. So
Except for we disagree on the Mr. Toad cinematic universe and its existence. We firmly disagree on that.
Mr. Toad has a cinematic universe. So, Allie, there's a couple other dark rides in Disneyland. Why don't you fill us in on those really quick?
Yeah, so Disneyland has Alice in Wonderland, which was opened in 1958, and Pinocchio's Daring Journey, which was opened in 1983. We are going to be talking about those in other episodes. So for this episode, we are specifically talking about pre-1971. Pinocchio opened in 1983. That excludes it. And then as far as Alice goes, we are in this season only talking about rides that have equivalents on both coasts. So we're not talking about Alice in Wonderland in this season, but we are discussing for future seasons, be like, okay, we've talked about everything that's the same or similar or has an equivalent. Now let's talk about what are the things you can only experience at Disneyland or at Disney World. So that's a future season down the line. Don't know when that'll be, but yeah, we'll talk about Alice in Wonderland another time.
Right. And Disneyland still has Fantasyland rides that don't have an equivalent at all, that aren't dark rides, like Casey Jr. and Storybook Land Canal Boats, too.
Yeah. So those will be future episodes down the line. At some point, we will end up talking about hopefully every single attraction.
Yeah, in some capacity. We'll get there. But we just wanted to point out we know there are other dark rides in Disneyland.
Yeah,
we
have reasons for skipping them at this stage.
We have reasons for excluding them this season. So, anyways, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode. So, let us know what you guys think. Do you agree with us? Would you split? I mean, is your opinion split like ours was 50-50? Let us know what you think. You can find us on Instagram and supposedly on Twitter, allegedly on Twitter, at Park2Park Pod with the number 2. You can email us with questions, feedback, future episode ideas, and more at park2parkpod@gmail.com. Again, that's park2parkpod@gmail.com with the number 2. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts.
We also have a TikTok.
Apparently, and we're on YouTube. So if you want to see our lovely faces and see our reenactment of the Space Mountain video where we clunk our heads in the beginning of the video, you can watch that lovely reenactment.
Yeah, and actually, Spotify apparently does video podcasts too now. So I've been uploading the last several episodes as video, so you can watch us on Spotify. I guess I don't know. I don't really Spotify, but
I've watched some other podcasts on Spotify.
On that note, there's been some issues with the last few minutes of video in the last 2 episodes. So to our 8 people who watch us on YouTube, sorry. I haven't figured that out.
Technology, isn't it great? Well, Allie, what are we talking about next time?
Next time, we are talking about one of the greatest life philosophies that I think everybody needs to know. There's so much that we share, CJ, that it's time we're aware that it's really a small world after all.
Is it?
It is.
I think I need to hear it again.
Did you know that it's a world of laughter?
A
world of fears? Of tears? A world of hopes and a world of fears?
Wow. That's just beautiful.
How would you like to hear that for 15 minutes straight in different languages, CJ?
That sounds like a really great way to spend 15 minutes of my life.
In the air conditioning, yeah.
On a boat, perhaps?
Yeah, don't you ever forget. Anyways, yeah, we're going to be talking about It's a Small World, and we're also going to be talking about the submarine rides at Disneyland and Disney World.
We're going to be riding some boats. On the water and in the water.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's That's next time on the Park2Park podcast. It will be an adventure indeed.
An adventure through liquid space.
That would be a good episode title. Adventures through liquid space.
We'll think about it. All right, we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks.
Smash that subscribe button.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.